Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear this carefully, because these are not ordinary words. The Spirit speaks, and He says, mark this day, 5th of September, 2025. For on this day, your life will never be the same again. Many of us go through life believing that change is slow, that blessings come gradually, that doors open and close at our convenience. But God operates differently. He moves suddenly. He moves decisively. And sometimes He sets a day, a single day, when destiny shifts, when chains are broken, when the impossible becomes possible. I don't know what your 5th of September will look like. I don't know the mountains that seem too high, the debts that seem too heavy, or the battles that feel too long. But I do know this: God is speaking to you. And He is telling you that something extraordinary is coming. A breakthrough is near. A revelation is ready. A shift is at hand. Remember, it's not the world's timetable that matters. It is God's. And when God says, this day will change your life, no power on earth can stop it. He is the God who parts seas, who raises the dead, who turns mourning into dancing. So I tell you today, prepare yourself. Guard your heart. Position your life. Expect miracles, not in years, not in decades, but in a single day. 5th of September 2025 is a day of destiny, a day of divine intervention, a day when what has been delayed will be delivered, when hope will awaken, and when your life will never, ever be the same again. Do not let doubt whisper. Do not let fear speak louder than the word. This is the day. God has spoken, and what He says He does. Mark it, pray, believe, and watch as the heavens move on your behalf. There are moments in life when time itself seems to carry a different weight, when a single day holds within it the power to alter the course of your destiny. That is what is being spoken of here. The idea that God sets specific days, unique and sacred, for His purposes to unfold in ways that defy human expectation. 5th of September 2025 is one such day. It is not just another date on the calendar, not just a day that will pass like all the others. It is a day chosen by God, appointed by Him for transformation, for awakening, for the sudden release of blessings, opportunities, and revelations that have been waiting for the right moment to come forth. Think for a moment about the nature of divine timing. The Creator of the universe is not bound by the limitations of human clocks or calendars. He does not measure life in hours or days as we do. He measures it in moments of divine intervention, in points of destiny where the ordinary intersects with the extraordinary. And when God designates a day, He moves heaven and earth to bring about His plan. There is a reason this day has been singled out, a reason it is set apart. It carries with it the potential to shift your life from struggle to breakthrough, from waiting to receiving, from despair to hope. Many people spend their lives waiting for change. They pray, they plan, they hope, yet years can pass without the shift they long for. But God works differently. He does not always act gradually. Sometimes He acts suddenly, and when He does, the results are undeniable, unmistakable, and often miraculous. This is the essence of divine timing. It is intentional, it is precise, and it is beyond human manipulation. The day God sets is a day when barriers fall, when chains that have held you captive are broken, and when the path that seemed impossible becomes clear. 5th of September 2025 is poised to be such a day. It is also a day that calls for awareness and readiness. Divine timing does not override human responsibility. God invites you to align yourself with His plan, to prepare your heart and mind, to cultivate faith and expectation. He asks you to step into this day not passively, but actively, with a heart open to receive, a spirit ready to respond, and eyes attuned to recognize the opportunities and interventions that will come. It is a day to position yourself in prayer, in hope, and in alignment with His will knowing that the fullness of the blessing is often received in the posture of readiness and faith. The idea that God sets specific days also speaks to his intimate knowledge of your life. He is not distant or indifferent. He watches over you, knows your struggles, your hopes, and your needs. When he sets a day for change, it is deeply personal, tailored to your circumstances. 5th of September 2025 is not just significant in a general sense, it is significant for you, for your life, for the purpose he has designed uniquely for you. It is a reminder that God's timing is perfect, that his plan is deliberate, and that the moment he has appointed will bring forth exactly what you need at the exact time you need it. In embracing this truth, you begin to see life not as a series of random events, but as a divinely orchestrated journey. Each day, each challenge, each waiting period is part of a greater design, leading to moments like 5th of September 2025. The day is a reminder that God is always at work, even when the world appears still, that he is always preparing the way for your breakthrough, and that his timing is always exact, precise, and perfect. Change does not always come gradually, and it does not always arrive on our timetable. Often, we live believing that transformation is a slow process, that breakthroughs unfold inch by inch, step by step, over months or even years. We prepare ourselves for small victories, for incremental progress, and for circumstances that shift only a little at a time. But God operates on a different timetable. His methods are not always measured by human patience or limited by human understanding. Sometimes change comes suddenly, decisively, and overwhelmingly, and when it does, it can alter the very trajectory of your life in an instant. This is the nature of divine transformation. God has the power to intervene in your life at a precise moment, bypassing obstacles, cutting through delays, and overturning situations that seemed immovable. It is the sudden, undeniable work of God that reminds us he is not bound by the limits of human expectation. The day he chooses to act is a day when circumstances that once seemed permanent are no longer permanent. Problems that have lingered for years can be resolved in a single moment. Paths that appeared blocked can suddenly open. Doors that were firmly closed can swing wide, and the impossible can become reality. When God works in sudden, decisive ways, he calls for our attention and our faith. It is not enough to continue in routine or to wait passively for change. Sudden transformation demands readiness, belief, and trust. It calls on us to recognize that what is coming is not ordinary and to position ourselves to receive it fully. A sudden breakthrough can arrive at a moment when we are least expecting it, but it will never catch a prepared heart by surprise. The key is to live with expectancy, to embrace faith, and to remain alert to the hand of God moving on our behalf. History is filled with examples of sudden divine intervention. The man or woman who seemed trapped in failure overnight experiences victory. The family burdened with debt finds provision miraculously. The illness that seemed incurable is healed. The opportunity that was thought lost appears as if by divine orchestration. Such moments serve as reminders that God's power is not incremental. It is absolute, instantaneous, and uncontainable. When God decides to act, even the longest wait can end in a single, transformative instant. Yet sudden change often requires courage. It asks us to step out of our comfort zones, to release fear, and to trust that God's plan is greater than our understanding. Many times, the hesitation we feel is not a reflection of God's timing, but of our reluctance to embrace it. To fully experience the sudden transformation God promises, we must be willing to let go of old patterns, to release limiting beliefs, and to walk boldly into the unknown with confidence that He is leading us. The promise of sudden change also carries with it hope and expectation. It reminds us that no matter how long we have waited, how deep our struggles run, or how impossible our circumstances appear, God can intervene at any moment. He can rewrite the story of our lives in a single day, a single hour, a single decision. And when that day comes, September 2025, it will be a turning point, a moment when everything shifts, when the chains fall, when the impossible is made possible. Understanding the nature of sudden, decisive change calls us to live with a heart of anticipation. It calls us to expect the miraculous, to look for signs of God's intervention, and to trust that His timing is always perfect. It is not gradual or slow, it is sudden, precise, and life-altering. And when God moves, nothing can remain the same. Preparation and expectation are not merely concepts, they are the very posture of a life aligned with God's purpose. When a day is set apart by the Almighty, when He declares that a specific day holds transformative power, it is not enough to passively wait for it to arrive. To experience the fullness of what God intends, one must actively prepare, cultivate expectation, and position the heart and mind to receive. September 2025 is such a day that carries divine potential, a day that invites readiness, and a day that calls for faith-filled anticipation. To prepare oneself for a day of divine intervention is to engage in a deliberate process of aligning every aspect of your life with God's will. It begins with the heart, the center of belief and intention. Guard your heart, nurture it with faith, and rid it of fear and doubt. The heart that is prepared to receive God's blessings is not weighed down by skepticism or paralyzed by past disappointments. It is a heart that believes in the possibility of change, even when circumstances seem immovable. By preparing your heart, you create space for the extraordinary, for the unexpected, and for the miraculous to enter your life. Preparation also involves the mind. Expectation begins in thought, in the conscious choice to believe that God's promises are true and His timing is perfect. The mind that anticipates God's intervention is alert, aware, and actively engaged in the unfolding of His plan. It discerns opportunities, recognizes signs, and responds with faith rather than hesitation. To prepare the mind is to replace doubt with certainty, confusion with clarity, and worry with trust. It is to acknowledge that while life may have seemed unpredictable, God's hand is steady, purposeful, and intentional. Positioning one's life for divine breakthrough requires action. It is not enough to hope or wish for change. One must live in a way that aligns with the blessings and opportunities God is ready to release. This may mean making difficult choices, letting go of old habits, or taking steps of courage into unknown territory. Every action taken in faith is a signal to God that you are ready to receive what He has prepared. It is the combination of preparation, expectation, and positioning that allows the miraculous to manifest fully and without obstruction. Expectation is a spiritual discipline. It is the conscious decision to believe that God's word is true and that His timing is perfect. When you expect change, you carry a sense of purpose and anticipation into each moment of the day. You are not passive, you are alive with readiness, aware that God can move in any instant. Expectation shapes perception, influences behavior, and invites divine encounters. It transforms waiting into active engagement, turning every hour into an opportunity for God's intervention. Consider this: many people miss the fullness of God's blessing not because it does not exist, but because they are unprepared to receive it. They fail to position themselves to anticipate it or to believe fully. God's timing is precise, and He often works in ways that are sudden and decisive. To be caught unaware is to miss the moment. But when a life is prepared, when expectation is cultivated, and when readiness is practiced, the blessings come without obstruction. The moment becomes a turning point, a day remembered forever, a moment when everything shifts and life is forever changed. 5th of September 2025 is such a day. It is a day that calls for preparation, for expectation, and for alignment with God's purpose. It is a day that will reward the hearts, minds, and lives that have positioned themselves in readiness. The extraordinary is poised to break forth, but it will find those who have not only hoped but believed, who have not only prayed but prepared, and who have not only desired change but have positioned themselves to receive it. Faith over fear is not simply a spiritual principle. It is the very lifeline that allows God's promises to take root in our lives. Every person at some point faces circumstances that provoke doubt, uncertainty, and even terror. The heart quivers when the future seems uncertain, when obstacles appear insurmountable, or when the path forward is hidden in shadows. Yet it is precisely in these moments that God calls His people to choose faith over fear. 5th of September 2025 is not just a date. It is a divine invitation to step into a posture of unwavering trust, to stand firm when the storms of doubt rage around you, and to believe that God's hand is moving on your behalf, even when you cannot see it. Fear has a way of distorting reality. It magnifies obstacles, exaggerates failures, and whispers lies that the impossible cannot be overcome. It convinces us that we are alone, that our efforts are in vain, and that the world's limitations define the boundaries of our lives. But faith breaks through fear because faith does not rely on what is visible, it relies on what is true. Faith acknowledges God's promises, believes in His power, and trusts His timing. When you choose faith over fear, you align yourself with divine reality rather than human perception. You choose to see with the eyes of heaven rather than the eyes of uncertainty. The power of faith over fear is that it unlocks divine intervention. God has promised that those who trust in Him will never be forsaken, that He will fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, and that no situation is too difficult for His power to overcome. When fear dominates, it erects barriers that God cannot remove because the heart is not open to receive. But when faith rises, it creates an environment where miracles can manifest, where opportunities can flourish, and where life-altering transformation becomes possible. 5th of September 2025 is poised to be such a moment, a day when fear must give way to faith, a day when hesitation is replaced with trust, and a day when belief becomes the gateway to change. Choosing faith over fear is not always easy. It requires courage, persistence, and an unwavering commitment to God's promises. It requires a conscious decision to reject the lies that doubt whispers and to embrace the truth that God speaks. Faith is an active stance, not a passive hope. It demands that we speak words of belief, act with confidence, and move forward even when the path is uncertain. It is through these actions that fear loses its power and God's purposes gain authority in our lives. Fear can paralyze, but faith propels. Fear can blind, but faith reveals. Fear can hinder, but faith advances. Every time you choose faith, you align yourself with the power that moves mountains, parts seas, and turns impossibilities into realities. The days leading up to 5th of September 2025 are an invitation to strengthen this choice, to examine your fears, to confront them with truth, and to replace them with the unwavering belief that God is faithful, that He is powerful, and that He has not forgotten you. Faith over fear also requires remembering past victories, acknowledging the evidence of God's faithfulness, and trusting that what He has done before, He can do again. Life is a tapestry of trials, triumphs, setbacks, and breakthroughs. Every step of faith builds momentum, creating a foundation for greater miracles. When fear rises, remind yourself of God's unchanging character, His steadfast love, and His perfect timing. Let these truths be louder than the whispers of doubt. 5th September 2025 is not a day to be approached with hesitation or trembling. It is a day to stand boldly, to embrace God's promises with confidence, and to walk in the knowledge that faith conquers fear. The choice is yours, to let fear dictate your future, or to allow faith to lead you into the life-changing destiny that God has prepared. Miracles and deliverance are not abstract concepts. They are the very heartbeat of God's power in the lives of His people. Every person faces circumstances that seem beyond repair, situations that appear insurmountable, and burdens that feel too heavy to bear. Yet God has promised that no obstacle is too great for Him, no situation too hopeless, and no heart too burdened for His intervention. Miracles are His signature. Deliverance is His promise. And when God moves, life as you know it is forever changed. 5th September 2025 is set apart as such a day when the extraordinary will intersect with the ordinary, when divine power will release, and when what has been held captive by struggle and limitation will be set free. Miracles are the evidence of God's active presence. They are the tangible signs that He is watching, that He cares, and that He is ready to act on behalf of those who call to Him. They do not always arrive in ways that are expected or in forms that are easily understood. Sometimes they come as sudden breakthroughs, sometimes as long-awaited answers, and sometimes as moments of clarity that illuminate the path forward. Regardless of how they manifest, miracles always confirm that God is faithful, that His promises are true, and that His power is unmatched by any earthly force. Deliverance is a companion to miracles, and it is equally vital. Deliverance is God's intervention to remove oppression, break chains, and restore what has been lost or stolen. It is the process by which lives, hearts, and circumstances are liberated from the weight of despair, fear, and limitation. Deliverance does not depend on human effort alone. It depends on the divine hand moving with precision and authority. On a 5th September 2025, the promise of deliverance stands as a beacon of hope. Those who have struggled, who have been bound by circumstances, and who have felt trapped by life's pressures are invited to experience freedom in ways that only God can orchestrate. Miracles and deliverance also require openness and receptivity. God's power is present, but it often requires a willing heart to receive it. This is why preparation, expectation, and faith are so crucial. The individual who approaches God with belief, readiness, and an open heart positions themselves to experience the fullness of His miraculous intervention. It is not merely about hoping for change. It is about aligning oneself with God's power, anticipating His movement, and trusting that what He promises will come to pass. When these conditions are met, the miraculous flows without obstruction, and deliverance is complete. History provides countless examples of God's miraculous power and deliverance. The sick are healed, the lost are found, the broken are restored, and the impossible becomes possible. These moments are not merely stories of the past. They are assurances for the present. They demonstrate that God's hand is still active, that His miracles are not limited by time or circumstance, and that His deliverance is as real today as it was centuries ago. 5th September 2025 is poised to become one of those moments, a day when the ordinary will be transformed into the extraordinary, and when lives will bear witness to the undeniable work of God. Expect miracles. Anticipate deliverance. Believe that the chains holding you back will break, that the doors long closed will open, and that the blessings delayed for so long will finally arrive. This day is an invitation to see God's power in action, to witness His faithfulness, and to embrace the transformation He intends to bring. Miracles and deliverance are not mere hopes. They are promises. And on this appointed day, God will move in ways that will leave no doubt of His presence, His love, and His power. The call to action is the final, but perhaps most crucial, element of experiencing a life-changing day. Knowing that God has set September 2025 as a day of transformation is not enough in itself to fully receive what has been appointed. One must respond actively, intentionally, and with a heart attuned to the divine. This is not a day for passivity or hesitation. It is a day that demands engagement, a day when belief must be translated into action, and when readiness must be coupled with response. God does not merely provide opportunity. He calls for partnership. To walk into the blessings of this day, one must move with purpose, faith, and obedience. Action begins with prayer. Prayer is the bridge between human desire and divine intervention. It is the language through which hearts align with God's will, and the channel through which blessings flow. To pray in expectation of September 2025 is to declare readiness to open the heart fully and to invite God's presence into every corner of life. It is a conscious acknowledgement that change is not a result of chance, but of divine orchestration, and that the hand of God is active and present, waiting to move on behalf of those who seek Him with sincerity. Prayer transforms anticipation into alignment, doubt into faith, and waiting into preparation for the extraordinary. Belief is the next vital step. To believe is to trust that God's promise is true, that His timing is perfect, and that the extraordinary is not only possible, but inevitable. Belief requires more than hope. It demands conviction. It is the unwavering assurance that God's plan is at work, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. To approach September 2025 without belief is to risk missing the fullness of the day's potential. But to approach it with faith, conviction, and trust is to position oneself to receive blessings that surpass imagination. Belief is the foundation upon which God's miraculous work rests, and without it, even the most favorable circumstances cannot yield their full impact. Action also involves readiness to recognize and seize opportunity. Often, the transformative moments of life arrive quietly, in ways that are subtle yet profound. To experience the fullness of September 2025, one must be vigilant, attentive, and responsive. Doors may open unexpectedly, encounters may occur suddenly, and guidance may be revealed in ways that require immediate action. Readiness is the willingness to step into these moments without hesitation, trusting that God is directing each step. It is the conscious decision to act when divine opportunity presents itself, rather than allowing fear, doubt, or procrastination to hold one back. Another aspect of action is alignment with God's principles. Transformation does not occur in a vacuum. It flows through obedience, integrity, and alignment with His will. To act in accordance with God's guidance is to ensure that the blessings of September 2025 are fully realized. This requires reflection, correction where needed, and a commitment to living in harmony with divine purpose. Action without alignment may yield temporary results, but true, lasting transformation comes when every step is guided by the wisdom, direction, and timing of God. Finally, action demands anticipation and expectation. It is not enough to simply wait passively. One must live in a posture of expectancy. This means engaging each moment with the awareness that God's intervention is imminent, responding to life with hope, and holding fast to the conviction that September 2025 will indeed be a turning point. Anticipation fuels readiness. Belief energizes action, and together they open the door to the extraordinary. The call to action is clear: pray, believe, position yourself, and live expectantly. September 2025 is more than a date. It is a divine appointment. And while God sets the day and prepares the way, He calls upon you to respond, to engage, and to step boldly into the transformation He has prepared. To act is to participate fully in God's work, and it is through action that the life-changing power of this day becomes reality.